They do a lot of work with animals and plants, so they understand the relationship that man has with the other creatures that inhabit the earth with him. And this is when she calls it a time of when they begin to develop the sense of justice and of personal dignity. And so they need a different prepared environment. We're not going to talk about that a lot, but in the future, as your kids finish with this, you may want to think a lot more about creating a proper environment for a 12 to 18-year-old. Because a truly beautiful Montessori Erdkinder is a wonderful thing to behold.
And also rare.
Yeah, there aren't too many of them. Anyway, we know adolescence is a difficult time, a delicate time, and there are a lot of doubts and hesitations and emotion swings. Kids can get discouraged, and their intellectual capacity is diminished because of all of this stuff that's going on. We all know it's kind of hard to think really well when you're emotionally in turmoil, and this is a very emotionally tumultuous time. So these kids need a different kind of environment at that age.
Which is not really fair, because that's when the most academic pressure is usually put on them, in high school, middle school, and high school.
And it's just not developmentally appropriate.
And it doesn't make sense.
And what it does is it tends to create lack of self-worth, lack of self-confidence, listlessness, even bullying and violent behavior. And it's not because the kids, that's how the kids are, it's because their natural tendencies are being repressed. And so they're acting out because they don't know what else to do. Because they're not, that life force energy is not able to flow freely. And that's a lot of why we have problems. I mean, Montessori really believed, and I truly believe, through my nearly 40 years of experience, that when you create an environment that's developmentally appropriate for children, and adults in that environment act in a way that is supportive of their developmental growth and progress, you are not going to have the kinds of behaviors that we are so distressed about when we think of kids in more traditional environments. Anyway, you're 18 to 24, last plane of development from Montessori's perspective. I would just say that's just the last plane of childhood development, because we all continue to go through planes of development, hopefully, until we die. Anyway, the questions here are, why am I here, and how far can I go? And what the person at this point is trying to understand and integrate themselves in their relationships with others and with the world at large. So this is a time when the person really develops the spiritual strength to find their calling and to do what they need to do to begin to pursue that path in life. And again, you need a university setting where the adults are sensitive to this drive, so that kids at this age, youth at this age, are being supported to find their path, not to take the courses that they need in order to get out, or not to take the courses that they need in order to make money, but to figure out, who am I? What is the gift that I am going to bring to the world? And what do I need to do to get on the path to pursue it? So there we have, those are our planes of development. And now we have a lot of presenting to do. So I knew we weren't going to be able to get through all of this. But
It's 6:45.
I know. So we're going to go, at this point, on to cosmic education and the materials that cosmic education brings that are developmentally appropriate for the children between the ages of 6 and 12. I just have one thing that I want to read. This is a quote from Montessori. And this, she says, the question is the education of the individual based on the principle of repressing or of respecting the inner energies of the child. Energies that are repressed lead to inferiority complexes, the weaknesses of personality, lack of responsibility, listlessness, timidity, tendencies to bullying and violence. So she noticed this. I mean, she died in 1952. So we're still seeing these same things. So I don't think it's the nature of our current society. I think this is something that has been going on for a long time and has to do with adults not really understanding developmental phases and stages and not knowing how to create environments that support the needs of people at the different periods in their life. But anyway, we want to go on to cosmic education so you can learn some more about that. We can always talk about other things more later. Anyway, cosmic education from the Montessorian perspective is the idea of a holistic approach to learning, the idea that everything is interdependent and interconnected, and that it's really important to start with the large picture and then move down in. It provides the child with a unitary vision of the world, the understanding that there's an organizing force within the universe, the idea that, you know, gravity is a force that all things need to obey, that there are things that you can't change just because you want. There are absolutes within the universe. Again, the appreciation for the interdependency of life and the environment. It brings to their awareness, because as we talk about each element that makes up this larger vision, we see how each element has a task that is self-fulfilling, but also that fulfills a purpose in regard to the whole. And from Montessori's perspective, by offering this during this period from 6 to 12, this is sort of the fuel that leads to the evolution of humanity towards a more peaceful species. So,
she refers to the child as the last cosmic agent for peace. So through the Montessori education system, we shall have a more peaceful world.
and that's the goal. So you want to show them some
All
of this
right.
great stuff?
Do you want to see some materials? All right, with the first, we have great stories in elementary. And in the first great story, we talk about how the universe was created. We use impressionistic charts along with scientific experiments. And I didn't set up all the scientific experiments for you because I didn't think we'd have enough time. This story usually takes an hour, so I didn't want to give you the whole thing. But I'll show you the charts. Here we have the sun, and if you can see there's a little black dot representing the Earth, and that's to show how big the sun is, because in one flame of the sun you can fit 22 Earths. That's our first chart. And then, of course, there are experiments in between. This is the Earth in flux. It's bursting with volcanoes, and there's a cloud of ash, and the sun is unhappy because it can't see the Earth. And after the volcanoes, the Earth starts to cool, and we have these little fairy-like creatures who are taking the heat up and then cooling it and coming back down with the cool to cool off the Earth. And they just keep doing this little dance of bringing the heat up and the cool down until the Earth is cooled.
And of course, the children then do their research and they say, there aren't any fairy-like things that do this. This is a property of nature. Oh, really? Tell me more about that.
There aren't little angels? All right, and finally, the Earth is cooled. There are still